Are you in a tough season right now? Do you lock yourself in the bathroom just to get a moment of peace? Do you feel stuck in a cycle of picking yourself up only to get knocked back down again? The Holy Spirit has led this podcast from day one, and I've been praying that it would meet you exactly where you are. I'm here to help you stand back up and stay standing. Hi, I'm Bethany Crow, and I have been where you are. There was a time I felt crushed under the weight of the world, like I couldn't take a step forward. But I discovered the peace of God and what it truly means to surrender. Now, my heart is to help you find that same peace and freedom. If you're ready to grow your faith and let go of the overwhelm, then this podcast is for you. So grab your Bible, heat up your coffee, maybe for the third time, and let's go. Hi, and welcome back to Spiritual Growth for Christian Moms. I am your host, Bethany, and I am super excited for today, which I'm realizing that I start every episode that way, but I think that's okay because I'm just excited about them all. Today's episode is one that's really close to my heart. I'm talking with someone I love so much, my cousin, Christina. She's been one of my best friends since we were little, and honestly, one of the most beautiful souls I have ever known. She's a wonderful wife. She's a fantastic mother of four, and someone I've always admired for her strength, her grace, and the way she shows up for her family and in her faith. Today, we're talking about something that I think a lot of moms need to hear more about: what it's like raising a child with special needs, the beauty, the challenges, the faith it requires, and the joy that still shines through. If you've ever felt like your version of motherhood doesn't look like everyone else's, or if you've ever wondered how to support a friend walking through something like this, then this conversation will be for you. And I know that because I've prayed so much over this conversation. I've prayed over every single word that will be spoken today in this conversation. I'm actually going to pray really quick right now before we get started. Father, your word says, where two or three are gathered together in your name, that you are among them, Lord. And I just pray that you are here with us talking. You are sitting right next to me. You are sitting right next to her. And Lord, I pray that you are sitting right next to the people that are listening to this. I pray that you will take our words and let the Holy Spirit just live through them and change them and put them in this microphone so that everyone that hears them will just be hearing the words of the Holy Spirit. In your name I pray, amen. So, hi, Stina.
Hello.
Stina, you want to actually, before I have you introduce yourself, so Christina and I and our other cousin Kate have another podcast together, which I will link in the description. It's called Sanctified and Sleep Deprived, and we are currently going through a devotional written by Gather Moms, and each week is just kind of a topic of what the devotional is and how we have lived it out ourselves as moms, and it's real nitty gritty, relatable mom stuff, which is I am enjoying that podcast so much. I hope you are too, Stina.
I am. It's been so much fun, and it actually feels weird to be on here without Kate.
It
So
does, yes.
I was like, had to remind myself, okay, this is not sanctified and sleep deprived.
Yes. Today is about you and your story, which I'm looking forward to. And will you actually kind of just briefly introduce yourself, your family, your background, and then kind of tell us about your birth and pregnancy with Lily?
Yeah. So yeah, I have four kiddos. We've been married for, goodness, I have to think about this, 13 years. And we waited, I think we were married about 6 years until we had Lily. And we're high school sweethearts, but we still weren't in a rush. We felt too young to have kids in our 20s or early 20s. So I was 26 when we got pregnant with Lillian, and we were super excited and super scared, first time parents. And of course, I was preparing for everything and anything. And one thing that I kind of love about her story, even though it was scary, is we had a good pregnancy. She was healthy the entire time, and I was not. I had crippling anxiety, and I remember just being so scared about everything. And I had to end up going on medicine when I was pregnant with Lillian, which I'd never taken any kind of anxiety medicine or anything like that. And I was afraid of the outcome for that and what it might do to the pregnancy. And I was worried about all the house stuff and having everything, just all the things that a mom has in her mind with first time babies, right? And God just like was like, stop. Like I remember a few weeks before she was born, he was just like, stop, none of it matters. Like none of that is what you need to focus on because it's not gonna matter. And then here comes, she's 4 days late, and I woke up at, I believe it was like 3 a.m., maybe 4 a.m. in the morning, and she was moving a lot. Like I think she was like moving down to be born. And she just thinking of her tiny little baby makes me smile. She was so squishy. She's 8 now. I don't think I said that, but she's my oldest. She's 8. And so now she's like big and turning into like teenager and like, no, mom. So I love thinking about her when she was a little baby. But anyway, so I remember going into her nursery and I was just rocking and I was like, okay, are you gonna come today? Are we going into labor? And I felt uncomfortable, but nothing like horrible. And if you've ever gone into labor, it's not just uncomfortable. And then she stopped. So Richard left for work, and thankfully my brother was here, my older brother Jared, and he was like just kind of giving me encouragement, just hanging out. I mean, we just watched movies, and he let me nap for most of the day. And before I knew it, it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was like, Jared, my brother Jared, I was like, she hasn't moved. I was like, I don't know if it's just because maybe she's been moving when I was sleeping. And I was like, that's really not okay. I was like, last time I remember feeling her move was when Richard left for work at 7 a.m. And this was 4. That's a long time for a baby not to move. So I had some caffeine and I was like pushing on her and I called my doctor and I was like, I don't know what to do. Is this normal when they get bigger, when they're about to, come? And she called me back and she's like, no, we need to see you right away. So I went in and she was okay, but I'm trying to remember exactly what made them. Maybe it's just because I was 4 days late and she wasn't moving. Like her heart rate was good, her all her vitals were all right. So they were like, "Let's go ahead and induce you if you're okay." We're like, "Yeah." And we got up to the room and they went to induce me less than 5 minutes. Like I didn't even feel anything. Like I don't know. I feel like maybe they put the Pitocin in and like 2 seconds later they were like, "Nope." They're like, baby does not like that. Her vitals started dropping immediately. Like the moment my body started contraction because I didn't even feel it. So it was just like those small little ones. She did not like it. She's like, nope, not happening. So my doctor checked me and she's like, you're still pretty close. And they, her vitals were just slowly dropping. And they're like, we could wait without the Pitocin and see what happens. But I would recommend you do a C-section before it becomes an emergency. I was like, okay, that's what we'll do because nobody wants an emergency any kind, right? So we did the emergency C-section and they got her out super quick. And she's born at 12 and 30 seconds on August the 4th. And she wasn't breathing. Her cord had been wrapped around her neck and in a very tight knot. So I think it's called a nuchal cord and I forget what all the medical terms were, but basically she had not been getting the proper amount of oxygen for a while, which is why when they started Pitocin, it automatically freaked her out because any kind of movement was taking away from the little bit she was getting. And so they worked on her and got her breathing, and we thought everything was going to be okay. And they gave her to me, and she was a little swollen, but she was out, she was healthy, her vitals were finally okay, except for her sugar. We went to recovery, and they brought her to me, and we did all the mom stuff. I was super dazed. C-sections are not fun with the medicine they give you. And I don't remember too much of those next few hours, just like bits and pieces because of the medicine I was on. But I remember she was okay for the most part. Like we had some blood sugar issues and they were watching her. It wasn't until 10 hours later when the doctor came in and checked on her. And he's like, "Oh yeah, she's good." He walked out. I started trying to nurse her and there was something wrong. I was like, what is wrong? She won't move. Like, what are we doing?" So we called the nurse. We're like, "Can you help me with this? I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. What's going on?" And the nurse took one look at her and was like, "She's having a seizure." I was like, "What?" And because it wasn't like she was just like glazed over. And she was my first baby. I wasn't know how they were supposed to act, Like I'd never done it before. And I knew it was weird, but didn't know why. But she was having a seizure, and the nurse automatically picked her up, and her and my husband took Lillian to the nursery and then straight up to the NICU. And she was on CPAP for a while, and a eating tube, and a heating pad, and they couldn't get the seizures to stop. Like they could, they just kept coming, and they were trying different medicines for it's like a whole 24 hours, I think. And finally, they found something that worked for her. And we were able to, I did not see any of the seizures, thankfully. I actually had only witnessed my first seizure when she was much older. And I thank the Lord for that because I think it would have broken me completely to see that tiny little thing having a seizure because they are scary. Um, like the shaking kind and convulsing. But that's the kind she started having when she got up into the NICU. And I'm very glad I did not have to witness them myself. Um, but we went up there, we weren't allowed to hold her for a while, and they warned us that they were going to have to do a bunch more tests and keep her until all her vitals were normal and until she could, be like typical, I guess, like, or strong enough to come out of the NICU. And it was hard. The NICU nurses were amazing though. And they would call Lillian the giant baby because she was 9 pounds and 1 ounce. And all the other little NICU babies were like 2 pounds and 4 pounds, and they were tiny, like preemies. And they were so adorable. And they had these tiny little cries. And Lillian's over there like this full grown, sort of chunky little baby and with her big wail. And so it was cute. The nurses just loved on her so much. And she was their giant NICU baby. And I would have to imagine that even to this day, she's probably the biggest baby they've ever had in there.
And I'm already teary-eyed just from imagining what you were going through. What kind of emotions? I know you were in a daze at first, but like what kind of emotions were you getting right out of the gate like this?
Oh, oh my goodness, it was so many emotions. Like fear of something that I had done, which we found out that it was absolutely nothing I could have avoided or done any differently. It was just something that happened. And in fact, all of my kids actually have had the cords um, somehow wrapped around their neck. I guess they just have long umbilical cords. But none of them have been dangerous like Lily's.
Right. It's been
But
very
so many emotions. My mother-in-law was there, thankfully. And to this day, I give my mom a hard time because I'm like, I couldn't get a hold of you because she wasn't answering her phone. I mean, they had been there till like 3, 4 a.m. with me the night before. And then they both my parents had to work the next day, so they went home to get a little bit of sleep. And my dad was actually sleeping on the couch of the hospital room until Richard came back with Lillian after one of her glucose tests. And that's when mom was like, okay, I'm gonna get him home. We need to work in the morning. And so I couldn't get a hold of her, so I was terrified, and Richard was gone, and I felt like I was just like alone. And then another nurse came in trying to help me pump because Lily needed milk. And I was like, now is just so not the time for this because it hurt, and you're not really producing a lot on that first day. And so it just felt like another failure, and all of this was happening within like a half hour.
Mm.
And sorry, now I'm tearing up. But my mother-in-law was so sweet. Thankfully, she was there, and I don't know if she knew what to do either, but she just prayed with me and just sat there, and she was just there. And I really appreciated her, even though I'm sure she had no idea what to do and she was scared. And she wasn't, my mom. Like, we've gotten a lot closer since Lillian's birth, but it was just really good to have somebody there other than just nurses that were trying to, be like, "Oh, wait, it's okay. Like, she's gonna be okay. Let's try to make some milk." Um, and then the next little bit is kind of a blur. I don't think I saw her till the next day. Um, because I went remember being in a wheelchair still. But like I said, I didn't see any of the seizures or anything. So I think Richard Lee, my husband, that he purposely had me wait so to see her till it was all calmed down, which I appreciate. But it was hard.
Yeah, that would be very hard. All of it would be hard. I mean, it's hard when everything's going perfectly fine. So you had mentioned now she's 8. This was your first child.
Yes.
What does life look like in these last 8 years? Like, how has it been different and not worse, but just different than raising a typically developing child? What's harder and maybe what's even easier?
So there's a lot of things harder, I feel like. And I think her being our first two, like in some ways it was a blessing because we could focus just on her for the first 2 years. But in other ways, like I didn't know what typical development was. Like my nephew was 3 at the time, but he was like the only other like little kid that I had known. And he's a boy. And so I've learned that they develop kind of differently anyways. And so watching Lillian, like when she should sit up and when all of the therapy stuff was hard. And we had therapies come in when she was a baby. We had them come to our house, and that was great. But it was really hard on me because I felt like I was missing out on like just some things like, you know, other parents are like, "Oh, we took our first crawl or first step and um we're still trying to roll over." And it was a long time before I was like came to the conclusion that that was okay.
Mhm.
So I think that was honestly my hardest part because we have amazing therapists and we have an amazing group of people, which if you have a child with special needs, I encourage you to find yourself a little family, like whether it's in the therapy office or a connect group that you can find like support group or church, or if you have your own big family that is able to support you, like it really makes a difference. Like you cannot do it alone. And even still to this day, like Wednesday, my mom is picking up Trip for me because I have to take Lily to a appointment. So it's really good to have that support. But I also think that some of the easy things, or once I got over that initial, it's not the same for me as it is for others, and feeling kind of bad about that. like I got over that and I was like, well, Lillian and I are gonna just do our own thing. We'll celebrate our own things and we'll just be us. Like I have dyslexia and so I've never been like 100% typical. And so I was like, let's just do us, kid. And that really changed the narrative for me a lot. And I've seen God work through her so much. It's been amazing. And that's been the easy part. And even with her siblings, now that she's older, like I see they're still siblings, they still fight. Like she's still the oldest sister who wants to control everything and tell everyone what to do. Um, but it's just the others have such a sense of empathy, I think is the right word. And they're able just to help. Like, I try not to be like, oh, do this, do that, and leave them out or make things harder for them. But I see them do it themselves. They're like, oh, Lily, you need help putting your shoes on? Or here, I can get this off the top shelf for you. And it's just super sweet and a little scary because they make like their own little gang. And Lily will be like, oh, get the Oreos from the top shelf. And so Rose will climb up and get the Oreos. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, Lily told us to.
Let's backtrack for just a second. Can you tell us what the lasting effects were of what happened during birth? Like, what are the issues that she faces now?
Yes, sorry. I got a little caught up in my emotions.
No,
Um, but yes, so Lillian, we were warned when she was a few days old that she may have cerebral palsy and other complications from the lack of oxygen. And we did some testing before she got out of the hospital. And it's been 8 years, and I can't exactly remember which part of her brain, um, but it's like in the back of her brain is gray, which means basically the tissue there is dead. So her brain awesomely decided to find different routes to do the things that she's doing. So when she tells her legs to move, her brain has to like bounce off a bunch of other places first in order to get to her legs. And sometimes they spaz out on her without her wanting them to. Her muscles are super tight in her legs, but in her hips, they are very loose. Um, and she's also her fine motor and speaking skills are things that we do therapy for because they're not 100% either. So those are just some of the things. And she has seizures still, but thankfully we control that with medicine. And ah, sometimes she wakes up so angry. And that's one of those things that I'm like, I don't know if that's just an 8-year-old thing or if there's more going on than that I can't see.
yeah.
And it breaks my heart a little bit.
How is her communication now at 8 years old?
So she has some words, but she is really um, like gestures and like communicating with like grunts and stuff around adults. Or sometimes she just like looks at me and I know what she's saying, which is really cool. But it drives other people crazy. So they're like, we don't know that. And but I'm like, well, it's just a mom-daughter thing. Or the other kids. They're like, she's saying this, mom. And they communicate really well. And my nephew says that when adults aren't around, she talks a lot more.
Hmm.
So I think as she gets older, it's a little bit of a thing that she can control. And she doesn't want to talk in front of adults, so she's not going to.
So, how I know you said you had to kind of get over the fact that things are different, but how do you accept all these challenges and still find peace without taking away from other people's hard or even your own joy in raising her?
Yeah, so it was definitely a journey, as I feel life is, and we had to. come at it from different angles and like I was definitely never angry with God as um and it was never really hard for me to accept, which I know both those things are hard for some people. Um but it's just I just realized when I was looking at other like I was just sifting through parenting like Facebook pages and special needs parents things and disability things for school and just all these different things that I was just sifting through. And I was like, it is like Lillian's case is not that severe compared to some kids. And my mom actually was like, that doesn't mean it's not hard for you. And that was kind of what clicked it in my head. I was like, my hard does not take away from other people's hard. And their hard doesn't take away from my, like, I'm allowed to still struggle, even though their heart is harder than mine. Like, I can still think that my heart is hard. Like, this is what I'm living. And we can both have respect for each other and um, see each other without having to compete against each other and be like, oh, well, my kid never sleeps through the night, or my kid only slept 4 hours last night, or my
Yeah.
kid slept all night last night.
Yeah, I think that's so important for a lot of moms with any child. Like, I think it's so
Mhm.
natural for us all to compare ourselves to each other.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. And a huge basis of that for me was putting Christ in the center of it. Like, no matter what I've gone through in life, that's always been my goal. And with Lillian, situation, that was something that I did within those very first few days because I knew I couldn't exist without that. Like, I would have been so broken and fallen apart. And I never could have done the amazing things. Well, actually, let me back up. I haven't done the amazing things. She has done the amazing things, but God never would have been able to allow us to do those amazing things and reach people for Him the way we have if I didn't make Him the center. And that's how I keep that joy too. Being like, I know this might not look perfect, but it's all in God's hands, and so that's okay.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful way to think about it. What has this journey taught you about God's purpose? I mean, I know you said you couldn't do it without Christ in the middle, but have you learned anything about the purpose, your life purpose, Lily's purpose, purpose for your family?
Yes, so dependency on God, I think, is one of the main things that we have learned that without Him, we are truly nothing, which sounds negative, but it's not. There's a lot of things I think that can sound negative when you look at it from a human stance, but when you look at it from God's stance, it's actually encouraging. Like we he we aren't enough, and that's okay. Like in any sense of the form, whether it's physical or mental, spiritual, we're not enough. And that's good because we need God. Like He is our enough. And that has been the last 8 years, that has just like been a shining truth to me. Like, it's not a bad thing to be like, I can't do this. I need help. And that's actually what God wants from us because He never created us to be fully dependent on ourselves. From the moment we were created, we were dependent on God and on His perfectness. And then when we sinned, as we as a human race sinned, um, then He made a way for us to get close to Him again. Because He's like, you're gonna need me. So here's my son, that way you can have me. And in so many different ways. Like I could talk about this for hours, but in so many different ways, that truth has been provided to me through this. And this might answer another question you have later, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. Um, I struggled a lot with the question of why. Why us? Why God allows this disability? Um, and I remember my brother-in-law saying to me one time, like, who says Lily's not perfect? And that changed my way of thinking too. Like, and this was when she was younger. So when I was learning to have this, that statement stuck with me forever. And it ch also changed the way I think about perfection. And we all have things that make us imperfect. Like I said, I am dyslexic and I have very bad anxiety. And you can't see those, but they're still there. And some some people are too perfectionist. Like they have the OCD, and it's another one that you can't with them. And those things don't make us less than, but they make us acknowledge that we live in a sin-filled world and that God is our dependence. And there's so much focus on the things of this world that we forget to look at things that go deeper, on the spiritual meaning, on the things that we will truly last forever. We are more than just our bodies, and we don't have a perfect answer to the why. Like I never came to a 100%. This is why God allowed Lillian to have this disability. But I came to the spot where I didn't need a 100% answer, um, because God is enough and God shows up through Lillian in so many different ways. And our family has become stronger. My younger kids have become stronger. And we've realized what's more important through.
And
And go ahead.
I think it's amazing that, I mean, you've already, not that you have everything figured out, but you're already at that conclusion so that you can raise her in such a way that if when she's older, if she ever thinks herself like, why me? You have already instilled the answer in her by the way you've raised her.
Mhm. Yes, and thank you. I like that because I think that's what we were going
I think
for.
you're doing great. You've, I mean, you've really like processed emotions and like come to godly conclusions so quickly in her life. And,
Yes, and one of the things
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one of the things that Richard and I were talking about just the other day was John 9, I think it is, and it's when Jesus and his disciples pass by the blind man, and the disciples ask him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And Jesus says, neither this man nor his parents sinned, but this came about so that God's work could be done through him.
That's amazing.
And yeah, like it's great to think about, like, hey, this isn't, I mean, it is a weakness, but it's so God can be shown. Like, it's
Right.
actually a blessing. That means God thinks I'm pretty cool and wants to show people through me.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've never thought of that story that way. And you are raising three other kids at the same time. So, do you find it hard to parent the other kids because your time and energy and special efforts are going towards Lily, or even finding it hard to have your marriage thrive? Or, I mean, four kids in general is hard to have your marriage thrive. I would think three kids and fourth that possibly needs more attention would be, and you had also mentioned glass children once. If you want to kind of explain what that means, I have no idea what you mean by that.
Yes, so glass children, it's a term that I recently came across and I thought it was pretty fitting. But it's children or siblings of a child who has special needs. Sorry, my baby's getting quite talky over here.
Yeah, she, for
But
everyone listening, she is currently holding one of them right now as she's talking to us.
um but so Lillian would be the child with special needs, and so Trip, Rose, and Theo would all be considered glass children. And it just means that they are see-through, I think is like the main point of that. I did write down somewhere the actual description of what a glass child is: a sibling of a child with a chronic illness, disability, or other special needs. These children are often overlooked because family resources and attentions are focused on the siblings, leading them to feel invisible or like they are being looked right through. And that that terminology is kind of has a sad connotation, but how I first heard of it was actually an Instagram video of these two sisters saying how happy they were. They were a glass child and that they were older, but that they would proudly let people look through them so their brother could shine. And it brought me to tears. I was like, that's what I want my children to. I mean, I don't want them to feel like glass children, but yes, Lillian does take extra care, extra therapies, extra time. Sometimes we have emotional issues that are harder for us to figure out because of the speech there and things as simple as just she wanted to tell her brother goodnight one night. And I thought she was being disobedient. And I was like, you have to go to your bed. And she started freaking out. And I figured out after 20 minutes of this like emotional explosion that she just wanted to come in and say goodnight to her little brother. And I felt awful. And so there's those moments too where the other three just have to like deal with it because I'm in the midst of this 20-minute episode with Lily trying to figure stuff out. And they do really good. And so it's kind of inevitable that they will feel a little bit like this, but I never want it to be a bad two girls I saw on Instagram where they can shine and Lily can shine with them, and that it's a privilege to be siblings with her and her with them. And so we try to raise them where they get special time with us and they know. In fact, I have a book that I meant to bring in here with me so I could tell you the title, but it was specifically about this, about the little boy who had to wait up for bedtime and didn't get as much snuggles because that's one thing that our son, our 5-year-old, deals with. So I got this book for him, and it's a beautiful book. And maybe
We
we can
can
link
link
it in
it
the
in the
comments when I
description.
can get it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Um, but we try to make sure we have those times with them alone and times that we encourage them. And when we see them struggle, we try to address it right away. And that way they never feel like they're on the back burner. Um, but sometimes we just have to be a little more patient in order to have our needs met. You know, not that they won't get met, just that sometimes we need to wait. And then I try to make sure which thankfully it's not as many like medical needs. I can see this definitely happening if she were to have more medical needs that needed taken care of right away. But sometimes I can tell her to pause. I can be like, hold on, your brother needs me. And she might not like it, but I can be like, we can do this in a minute, Lillian. Your brother needs me. And that's helpful too.
Well, you guys are doing an amazing job. I mean, I just think you both are amazing parents. Your faith inspires me. Your parenting abilities inspire me. You both are just beautiful people. And as we're wrapping up today, is there anything that you could say to our listeners, maybe like a parent that is having these same struggles or a friend that has a like friend of these parents that would do you have
Mhm.
anything that would maybe keep their faith strong or tips and tricks or maybe even some proper terminology or even links that we can share that you might like to say?
Um, yeah. Wrapping up is so hard because I literally could talk about this for a lot longer, but
Oh, I know, me too.
it's
Maybe we'll do a second episode.
um but I guess what I would say is you're never gonna get it 100% right. And that's okay because it's your first time going through this. It's your first time raising this little one or this big one, depending on how old they are. And it's probably different than what you imagined. And so adjusting to that, taking those moments to realize it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay not to have it all together. And it's okay to be sad that it's not what you pictured when you were 16 and thinking about your first marriage and your first kids and how perfect it was going to be. But then to get over that, if that makes sense, and realize how perfect it has become. and to enjoy those moments and to slow down. Then there's so many places that can give you support and just put God in the middle of it because that's really the most important part. You can be as a part of as many groups as you want, and you can have nurses or helpers come in to give you respite and all these things. But if you don't have God in there to give you that joy, that self-care, um, then you very far.
That's such a good reminder. And maybe people don't have a relationship with God and are going through this and don't know what it's like and the change that happens when you have a relationship with God.
Mhm.
Do you have words of wisdom for people that haven't placed God in the middle or don't know how to place God in the middle?
Well, I don't know. That's always where I have gotten my strength from and my hope, and I feel like that's what we're made for. So if you're out there and you've listened this far and you don't share my same opinions, I guess it's hard for me to give you a place of where to go since I'm not in that same thought process. But I know that there are multiple places of communities that can give hope. You go to your library, go to your local hospital, um, go to any therapy offices. They will have resources that can help you get through. And they're all good things. I mean, I guess just admitting that we don't have this all together, um, is really, and we need help from somebody. My office or Lily's therapy office is awesome. They always have things up on their bulletin board about places you can reach out, and we've been there since she was 3 months old. So, and she's 8 now, so we know all of them, like their family, and that helps too. So just, get involved and be a part of that community.
And like Stina said, I mean, we are in a broken world and we are broken people and we were designed to be with God. So if you ever feel like you have this like just hole and emptiness and craving that you don't know what it is, that's what it is. It's God. It's Jesus. In Romans 10, it says that
Yep.
if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. So all you have to do
Yep.
is
And
believe and confess, and then you are saved. And he can really just completely transform a life.
and I guess I'm sorry, Bethany, I had one more thing.
You're fine.
Um, just remember that your child, even when it gets hard, your child is beautiful. And they are just a wonderful part of this world that deserve all the love and attention. And don't stop fighting for them because this world is not meant for different needs. Like it is meant for people who are walking and talking and fine motor skills. And it is hard sometimes, but that's okay that it's hard. Never give up on that. Don't stop fighting for your kids and make it work.
Yes. Yes. Okay, Stina, thank you so much for being here and sharing your heart. I know this episode is going to touch so many people. And if you're listening and you've ever felt unseen or overwhelmed, I hope this reminded you that God sees every single part of your motherhood story, no matter what it looks like, the hard, the holy, and the beautiful. And we will link all the things we have talked about in the description. Don't forget if you share this episode or review this episode or put comments on this episode, that actually helps us get seen by people. So please do that, even if you're just commenting where you're from and who you are. That's fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and pray real quick again. Abba, Father, thank you so much for Stina and her heart. and attitude. You made her so beautiful. And thank you for her family, for her loving husband you gave her, and for the four wonderful, beautiful children you gave her. I pray that you will use her story on this podcast, but also pray that you'll just use her story everywhere she goes, Lord. She is such a bright light, and I know that you have, and you will use that for your glory. In your name I pray. Amen. All right, friends. I do have future things coming that are super exciting, but in the meantime, if you want to join my free Facebook group, it's called Spiritual Growth for Christian Moms, the podcast, and more announcements will be on there. So thank you, Stina, again.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed speaking with you.
I enjoyed it too. All right, friends, have a good week. Bye.